The sun was setting low, painting the sky with warm colors of orange and pink. Neka, a young woman from the village, walked slowly along the dusty path. Her feet were bare, touching the rough earth as she carried a small woven basket. Inside was her last food, a little piece of yam and some beans. It was all she had left after a long, hard day. Her heart felt heavy. Life had been tough for her family. Her mother was sick, and there was no money to buy more food. Yet, Neka kept hope alive, even if it felt very thin. At the edge of the path, she saw a man sitting quietly. His clothes were old and torn, and his face showed signs of many struggles. But in his tired eyes, there was a gentle warmth. Without thinking twice, Neka stopped and held out the basket. "Please take this," she said softly. "I don't have much, but you need it more than I do." The man's eyes opened wide with surprise. He reached out slowly, taking the food with hands that trembled a little. They sat side by side for a moment, sharing a quiet peace under the brightening stars. The man smiled warmly and said, "Thank you. Your kindness is worth more than gold." Neka smiled back, not knowing how much those words would mean soon. She had helped a stranger, but this man was no ordinary traveler. Beneath his worn clothes was a billionaire who had come to the village looking for something money could never buy: true kindness. As the sky turned dark, the stars blinked softly. Neka turned to go home, her heart feeling lighter. She did not know that this small act of giving would start a story bigger than she ever dreamed. The next morning, Neka woke to the sound of birds singing softly outside her small window. The early light touched the worn walls of her home, where her mother lay resting on a simple mat. Though her mother's breathing was shallow, Neka felt a little hope in her chest. Today might be different. She stepped outside, the cool morning air wrapping around her. Her feet found the familiar rough earth again, and she wondered about the stranger from last night. Who was he really? Why had he come to this small village? Nearby, children played with laughter ringing through the air, chasing each other barefoot, their joy untouched by the worries of life. Neka smiled faintly but knew she could not join them. Responsibilities pressed on her shoulders like heavy stones. As she walked toward the market, the stranger appeared again. He was standing beside a large baobab tree, looking as calm as a river. This time, he was dressed in clothes that still looked simple, but there was a quiet confidence about him. "Good morning," he greeted with a gentle voice. Neka nodded, feeling shy but curious. "Good morning. You're here again." He smiled. "I am called Chinidu. I came to see the kindness of this village. Last night, your gift touched my heart." Neka looked away, unsure how to answer. "I only did what I could." Chinidu's eyes twinkled like stars. Sometimes, what we think is small is the greatest gift. Neka felt a warmth spread inside her. No one had spoken to her with such kindness in a long time. "Will you stay in the village?" she asked softly. "For a while, yes," he replied. "I want to learn what makes people like you so special." Neka thought of her mother, of the empty kitchen, and the dreams she held close. Could this stranger bring change, or was he just another passing shadow? The sun climbed higher as the village bustled around them. The story of a simple gift was just beginning, and neither Neka nor Chinidu knew how deeply their lives would soon be tied. Days passed slowly, but a gentle change began to bloom in the village. Chinidu stayed close, learning the rhythm of life that Neka knew so well. He helped where he could, carrying water from the well, fixing broken fences, and listening to stories shared under the shade of palm trees. Neka watched him quietly. His hands, though strong, moved carefully, as if afraid to break something delicate. She noticed how he smiled more now, how his eyes brightened when the children ran to greet him. The village, once a place of hardship, started to feel alive in a new way. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, Chinidu sat beside Neka near the river. He looked at the water shimmering like scattered jewels and said, "I came here thinking money could fix all problems. But I see now that true wealth is in simple things: kindness, hope, and people like you. Neka's heart lifted, but she held her worries close. My family is still hungry, and my mother is weak. Kindness can only do so much. Chinedu reached out, taking her hand gently. Let me help. I want to give more than words. Surprise and caution mixed in Neka's eyes. Why would you help me? He smiled softly. Because you gave me something priceless, your last food, without asking for anything in return. That is a rare gift. That night, Neka lay awake, thinking. Could this stranger be the answer she prayed for? Could her small act of kindness bloom into something greater? Outside, the village settled into sleep, with stars twinkling quietly. Two lives had met by chance, and the story of giving and hope was just beginning to weave its threads. The next morning, word began to spread quietly through the village. People whispered about the stranger who stayed longer than expected. Some watched from doorways, curious but unsure. Others smiled, hoping for change. Neka felt both nervous and hopeful. She wondered what Chinedu would do next. Would he remember the village after he left, or was he just passing through? One day, as she helped her mother by the small cooking fire, Chinedu appeared with a wide smile. I have something for you, he said, holding a wrapped bundle carefully. Neka's eyes widened. For me? Yes, he replied softly. It's small, but it carries hope. She unwrapped the bundle to find some seeds, tiny and round, shining like little treasures. What are these? Seeds of maize, Chinedu said. Plant them, care for them, and they will grow strong. This is a start for better days. Tears gathered in Neka's eyes. I don't know if I can. Chinedu's voice was steady. You can. This village is strong because of people like you. I will stay and help. From that day, they worked together, planting the seeds with care. Villagers joined in, curious and hopeful. The ground felt softer under their hands, and the earth seemed to welcome new life. Neka felt a spark inside her, a light she hadn't seen in a long time. Her mother smiled weakly, watching from the doorway. The small village was waking up, and so was hope. At night, stars glittered over the fields, promising new beginnings. And somewhere deep inside, Neka knew this was just the start of a bigger story. Weeks passed, and the village began to change in small but beautiful ways. Green shoots poked through the soil, reaching for the sun. The maize plants grew taller, swaying gently in the breeze like hopeful dancers. The villagers gathered often, sharing stories and laughter, their worries melting slowly under the warmth of new beginnings. Neka found herself smiling more, even when her mother's sickness lingered. She worked alongside Chinedu, learning to care for the crops, and in return, he listened to her dreams she had kept hidden like precious jewels. One afternoon, as they walked through the growing fields, Chinedu said, You have a strong spirit, Neka. It is a gift that no money can buy. She looked at him, surprised by the kindness in his words. I only do what I must. Life has taught me to be strong. Chinedu nodded. Strength like yours can move mountains. That evening, a gentle breeze carried the soft sounds of children's laughter through the village. Neka sat outside her small home, watching stars blink awake one by one. Her heart felt lighter, even though the road ahead was still uncertain. She remembered the night she shared her last food with a stranger, never imagining that simple act would grow into something so powerful. The billionaire was no longer just a man in worn clothes, he was a friend who believed in the village and in her. As sleep approached, Neka whispered a quiet prayer. Not just for her family, but for the whole village, to grow, to heal, and to find joy again. Under the vast African sky, hope took root like the maize beneath her feet, promising a future bright and full. The days grew warmer, and the village buzzed with quiet excitement. The maize stalks were now tall, their leaves whispering in the wind like a secret song. Neka's hands, once worn and tired, were now strong and steady, planting hope into the earth and her heart. Chinedu spent time talking with the village elders. They shared stories of old, of struggles and triumphs, and together they planned for a better tomorrow. Neka listened from a distance, feeling the threads of the past and future weaving tightly around her. One afternoon, while fixing a broken fence, Chinedu asked, "What is your greatest dream, Neka?" She paused, wiping sweat from her brow. "I want my mother to be well again. I want the village to live without hunger. I want to see children learn and laugh freely." Chinedu smiled, his eyes warm. "Those are beautiful dreams. I will help make them come true." That night, Neka stood outside, gazing at the stars. She felt a strange but wonderful mix of fear and hope. The stranger she had helped was no longer a mystery, he was a part of her world now. And with him came the promise of change, slow, gentle, but sure. Her small village was waking up, carried by the power of kindness and the strength of belief. The village began to buzz with new energy. Children ran with laughter, their voices rising like birds in the morning sky. The elders spoke in hopeful whispers, sharing news of the growing crops and Chinedu's plans. Neka felt the weight of her worries lessen, replaced by a quiet strength. Her mother's health showed small signs of improving, and the house felt warmer somehow. One morning, Chinedu called her to the edge of the village. There, standing proud, was a small school building made of sun-baked bricks and bright windows. "This is for the children," he said softly. "A place where they can learn and dream." Neka's eyes filled with tears. "They have waited so long." Chinedu nodded. "No one should wait for a better future. We will help build that future here." The village gathered, hands joined and hearts open. Together, they painted, cleaned, and prepared the school. Laughter and song filled the air, blending with the smell of fresh earth and warm sunshine. Neka stood back, watching children line up eagerly, their faces glowing with hope. She knew this was more than a building. It was a promise, a gift born from kindness and belief. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in colors of fire and gold, Neka felt a peace she had never known. The stranger who once sat hungry by the path had become a part of their story, a thread woven deeply into the village's heart. Life in the village changed slowly but surely. The school stood tall now, bright and welcoming, filled with the sounds of children's laughter and learning. Neka watched the young ones run freely, their smiles like morning sunshine. Her mother's health was improving, little by little, with the help of neighbors and simple medicines Chinedu had brought. The village felt alive, stitched together by hope and kindness. One day, Neka and Chinedu walked to the riverbank, where the water danced over smooth stones. He looked at her with quiet eyes and said, "You taught me something more valuable than gold, how a heart can give without expecting." Neka smiled, feeling the weight of his words. It was a chance, nothing more. "No," Chinedu shook his head gently. "It was love, pure and simple." Neka's breath caught. The village, the crops, the school, it was more than just survival now. It was a new beginning. As the sun dipped below the trees, their shadows stretched long and close. The promise of a future built on kindness and courage grew stronger with every passing day. And in the heart of that small village, a quiet miracle blossomed. The village was waking up in more ways than one. The crops grew tall, and the school echoed with children's voices, bright and clear. Neka felt the gentle pulse of life beating stronger in every corner. Yet, deep inside, she knew the journey was far from over. One morning, as the sun stretched its golden fingers across the sky, Neka found herself walking alone toward the village square. Her mother sat nearby, smiling softly as neighbors gathered to share stories and laughter. The air was filled with hope and the scent of fresh earth. Neka thought about the day she had given her last food to a stranger. Back then, she was just a girl with little to offer, but her heart was full. That small act of kindness had started a river flowing, one that now reached far beyond what she had imagined. Chinedu had become more than a visitor. He was a friend and a partner in dreams. Together, they had planted seeds not just in the soil, but in the hearts of everyone around. As Neka walked, she saw children running toward the school, their faces bright with excitement. She smiled, knowing this was the future growing before her eyes. But the village still faced struggles. Some nights, hunger whispered in the wind. Some days, sickness knocked quietly at the doors. Neka held these worries close, but she did not let them weigh her down. Instead, she focused on what could grow, what could change. Chinedu joined her by the well, carrying water in clay pots. "The village is strong because of you," he said quietly. Neka shook her head. "No, because of us, all of us together." He smiled, a slow smile full of warmth. "I came here looking for kindness. I found it in every hand that helped, in every smile that shone." That night, under the vast African sky, Neka lay awake thinking. The road ahead was still long, but the village had started to bloom. From one small gift, 1,000 blessings had begun to grow. And as stars twinkled softly above, she knew this story was far from over. The village's heartbeat grew stronger each day, carrying with it whispers of hope and change. Neka woke early to the soft sounds of roosters and the smell of fresh earth. Her mother was sitting up now, resting on a thin mat, a small smile touching her lips. That alone was a victory. The maize fields stretched wide, green and proud beneath the sun's gentle warmth. Villagers worked side by side, their hands busy, their voices light. Even the children helped, their laughter floating on the breeze as they learned new songs and stories in the school. Neka stood at the edge of the fields, watching it all with quiet pride. She remembered the days when hunger and fear had clouded every corner of her life. Now, the village was waking, breathing life into old dreams. Chinedu approached, carrying a small basket of food. "This is for your mother," he said softly. "And for you." Neka took the basket, her eyes shining. "Thank you. You have done more than I ever imagined." Chinedu smiled, but his eyes held something deeper. "It is your kindness that made this possible." That evening, as the sky turned deep blue and the first stars appeared, Neka sat outside her home. The night air was cool and sweet, filled with the sounds of crickets and distant voices. She thought of the journey that had brought her here, from sharing her last food to standing in a village alive with promise. The stranger who had become a friend, the seeds that had grown into more than crops, the hope that blossomed in every heart. Neka whispered a quiet prayer, a song of thanks and dreams. She knew challenges would come, but the strength of the village and the power of kindness would carry them through. Under the endless African sky, the story continued, simple, true, and full of life. Days blended softly like colors in a sunset, carrying the village forward on waves of quiet joy. Neka found herself waking to new sounds, children's laughter, the rustle of leaves, and the steady rhythm of life returning. Her mother's strength grew slowly. The small home felt warmer, filled with the smell of cooking and fresh earth. Neka's hands, once trembling with worry, now worked confidently, planting and caring for the crops. Chinedu was always nearby, his presence gentle but sure. Together, they planned small ways to bring more help, clean water, tools for farming, and lessons for the young. One evening, as the fire flickered softly, Chinedu spoke with quiet passion. "This village has given me a gift no money could buy, a chance to see hope in its purest form." Neka smiled, her eyes shining in the firelight. "It started with a small gift, my last food. Who would have thought it would grow so much?" Chinedu nodded slowly. "Kindness is the seed from which all good things grow." The night wrapped the village in a gentle embrace, stars scattered like promises overhead. Neka felt a calm peace settle in her heart. The road was still long, but every step forward was a victory. And beneath the wide African sky, a story of giving, hope, and friendship blossomed, simple and strong, like the earth itself. The days grew shorter as the rainy season approached, but the village felt fuller than ever. Neka woke early to the soft sound of raindrops tapping on the roof. Her mother sat by the window, her face peaceful and calm. The simple joys had returned slowly, like sunlight after a long night. Outside, the maize plants drank the rain eagerly, their green leaves shimmering with drops of water. Villagers moved carefully, working together to protect the crops and prepare for the season ahead. The village was alive with purpose and hope. Neka walked through the fields, her fingers brushing the tall stalks. She thought about the journey from the night she shared her last food to this moment, a journey she never could have imagined. Chinedu stood nearby, watching the clouds gather. "The rain brings life, just like your kindness did," he said softly. Neka smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. "It feels like a new beginning." He nodded. "It is. Together, we have planted more than seeds. We have planted hope, friendship, and a future." That evening, the village gathered under a wide tree, sharing stories and songs. The air was filled with laughter and music, a celebration of how far they had come. Neka sat quietly, her thoughts drifting to the man she had helped without knowing who he was, a stranger who became a friend, a gift that grew beyond measure. As the stars twinkled brightly, Neka whispered a prayer for the days to come. The road was still long, with challenges hidden like shadows, but the light of kindness and faith would guide them through. In the heart of the village, under the vast African sky, a story blossomed, simple, true, and full of life. It was a story of giving without expecting, of hope that grows stronger with each day, and of two lives forever changed by one small act. And as the rain fell softly on the earth, Neka knew that their journey was far from over. Morning broke with golden light spilling across the rooftops, washing the village in warmth. Birds sang loudly, as if to announce something grand. It was not just another day, it was the day everything would change for good. Neka stepped outside, wiping her hands on her wrapper. The air felt different, almost electric. She noticed more people gathering in the square, whispering and pointing. Something was happening, but no one knew what. Chinedu appeared from behind the school, no longer in his usual simple clothes. He was dressed neatly, clean shirt, polished shoes, and a calm smile that carried weight. He walked slowly to the center, where curious villagers had already gathered. "I have something to tell you," he began, his voice steady but gentle. "When I came to this village, I came as a stranger. I wanted to find one thing that money can't buy, genuine kindness." He turned and looked at Neka. "And I found it, in her." Gasps filled the air. Neka's heart thumped in her chest. She looked around, confused and speechless. "My name is not just Chinedu," he continued. "I own farms, schools, and businesses across this country. I am a billionaire. But none of that mattered until someone gave me her last food without knowing who I was. That small act changed everything." The crowd was silent. Some covered their mouths. Others wept quietly. Chinedu smiled gently at Neka. "I have set up a foundation in your name. This village will now have clean water, clinics, proper roads, and more schools. You gave me food, and I will never forget that." Tears rolled down Neka's cheeks. She wasn't dreaming. It was real. Her kindness had opened a door no one else could see. That evening, the village danced. Fire cracked, drums beat, and the stars above blinked as if clapping along. Neka stood beside her mother, surrounded by people she loved. She was no longer the girl who gave away her last food. She was the girl who reminded a billionaire of what truly matters. And as laughter echoed deep into the night, the story closed, not with riches, but with the simple, sweet beauty of a giving heart.